What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 4 Monday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay guys, in this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for this Monday Night Football 2-game slate. We have the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots and the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, NFL Week 4, let's take a look at this 2-game slate. So at the quarterback position, of course, Patrick Mahomes playing the New England Patriots. My only concern here is that they blow the Patriots out because there's no Cam Newton, and it's a pretty tough matchup here. But Patrick Mahomes is averaging 31.3 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 43, 31, and 20 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks, getting an average of 3.3 rush attempts per game. He's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight, and he's 7,600 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 49.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 10.5. So that's my concern with Patrick Mahomes, but this guy could easily be the top scoring quarterback on the slate, so it's hard to fade him. So I like Patrick Mahomes here versus the New England Patriots. But 2 quarterbacks that I'm looking at a little bit more than Patrick Mahomes here tonight are Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan. Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the absolute worst defense overall and give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers has averaged 25.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 1.7 rush attempts per game. He's projected at 21.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,000 DraftKings salary. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 57 points scored in this game. So this is the highest scoring game on the slate by a pretty big margin. And they have the Green Bay Packers favored by 7. Fantastic matchup here. The only problem is the Green Bay Packers have a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position. Davante Adams is banged up. We're not sure if he's going to play yet. Davante Adams was limited in practice, but he's questionable. I have a feeling he's going to go here tonight. But there's some other injuries, like Allen Lazard is out. So they're pretty banged up at the wide receiver position. But Aaron Rodgers has a pass-catching back in Aaron Jones, and he's got a pretty capable tight end. So he's still got plenty of weapons to throw the ball. So I like Aaron Rodgers here versus the Atlanta Falcons. And then I like Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Matt Ryan has averaged 23 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2 rush attempts per game. Now, he only put up 12 fantasy points last game. That may throw some people off of this pick here, but he scored 29 and 28 fantasy points in week 1 and week 2. So he's projected at 22.8 fantasy points here in week 4. He's 6,200 DraftKings salary. So you're saving some salary with Matt Ryan. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 57 points scored in this game. They have the Atlanta Falcons trailing by 7. So it could be, and it should be, a passing game script for Matt Ryan. So I like Matt Ryan here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So at the top here, I like Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Aaron Jones has averaged 27.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 16.7 rush attempts per game and 6 pass targets per game. He's projected at 19.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,300 DraftKings salary. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 57 points scored in this game, with the Packers favored by 7, so Aaron Jones could get plenty of volume in the run game, in the pass game. So I like Aaron Jones here versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if you're looking to save some salary at the running back position and still get a quality back with a nice matchup, take a look at Todd Gurley from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Todd Gurley has averaged 11.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 16.3 rush attempts per game and 2.3 pass targets per game. Todd Gurley is only 5,500 DraftKings salary. He's projected at 13.5 fantasy points here tonight. Now, we know the Atlanta Falcons are projected to be trailing in this game, so that may scare you away from playing Todd Gurley here, but it's a great matchup, a super high scoring game, and his salary is low enough where you can get some value from Todd Gurley. If he gives you 15, 18 fantasy points, that's more than enough when you're only paying 5,500 DraftKings salary. So I like Todd Gurley here versus the Green Bay Packers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
And the other running back I like is Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the New England Patriots, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has averaged 18.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 18.3 rush attempts per game and 5.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 66% of the snaps, touches the ball 49% of that time, projected at 18.1 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,200 DraftKings salary, and we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 49.5 points scored in this game, with the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 10.5. So this could be a running game script here for the Chiefs. If they get way ahead, Clyde Edwards-Helaire should get plenty of volume. So I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire here versus the New England Patriots. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. I like Marquez Valdes-Scantling from the Green Bay Packers playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Valdes-Scantling has averaged 10.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.7 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 68% of the snaps, touches the ball 12% of that time. He's projected at 11 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only 4,900 DraftKings salary. So we know this is going to be a high-scoring game, a great matchup, and with no Allen Lazard, Valdes-Scantling could get a few more targets in the passing game. So I like Marquez Valdes-Scantling here versus the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, now this next guy's in a similar situation as Valdez-Scantling, with the other wide receivers banged up a little bit. I like Russell Gage from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the ninth worst defense overall, and they give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Russell Gage has averaged 14.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 8 pass targets per game. Now, he only scored 5 fantasy points last week off of 3 pass targets. That may scare some people away. He's on the field for 58% of the snaps. He touches the ball 19% of that time. And Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley are questionable coming into this matchup, so keep your eye on that. But with or without those guys, I still think he makes a good play because his salary is low. He's projected at 11.4 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only 4,500 DraftKings salary. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 57 points scored in this game, with the Falcons trailing by 7. So it should be a passing game script for the Falcons. He should get plenty of targets. So I like Russell Gage here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, another value play here. I like Sammy Watkins from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the New England Patriots, who have a good defense overall. They're actually giving up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Sammy Watkins has averaged 12.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.7 pass targets per game. He's been on the field for 75% of the snaps, touching the ball 13% of that time. He scored 13, 2, and 22 fantasy points in the first 3 weeks of the season. He got 8 pass targets last game, and he's projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's only 4,300 DraftKings salary. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 49.5 points scored in this game. Kansas City Chiefs favored by 10.5. But we know Tyreek Hill is going to draw the top cover man, so it could leave Sammy Watkins open for some long passes down the field. So I like Sammy Watkins here versus the New England Patriots. And if you're looking for a sleeper pick here, a super low salary player, take a look at N'Keal Harry from the New England Patriots playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing wide receivers. N'Keal Harry has averaged 9.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 77% of the snaps, touched the ball 15% of that time. He's projected at 9.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's only 3,900 DraftKings salary. And with the New England Patriots projected to be trailing by 10.5 points here, N'Keal Harry could get a ton of volume as Brian Hoyer has to heave the ball downfield to try to catch up. So could be a lot of passing volume here. Looks like N'Keal Harry is their second best wide receiver next to Julian Edelman, who was limited in practice leading up to this game. So N'Keal Harry is healthy, should get a ton of volume. He's low salary. He did score 15 fantasy points in week 2. You don't need a ton from this guy to hit value. Passing game script in this game. So I like N'Keal Harry here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, let's take a look at the tight end position. I like Hayden Hurst from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Green Bay Packers, who have the 9th worst defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing tight ends, Hayden Hurst has averaged 10.7 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 5.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 69% of the snaps, touches the ball 10% of that time. He's projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 4,200 DraftKings salary. And we know the Atlanta Falcons are projected to be trailing by 7 in this game. So I like this passing game script with the Atlanta Falcons. So I like Hayden Hurst here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, now because of all the injuries to the wide receivers for Green Bay, I think this guy's in a pretty good spot here tonight. I like Robert Tonyan from the Green Bay Packers playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Robert Tonyan has averaged 8.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.7 pass targets per game, but those stats are a little deflated because he didn't really play in week 1. So week 2, he got 3 pass targets. Week 3, last week, he got 5 pass targets and scored 16 fantasy points. So he's projected at 7.5 fantasy points here tonight. I think he gets at least 10 fantasy points or more in this one, and he's only $3,800 DraftKings salary with a fantastic matchup, a high-scoring game. Aaron Rodgers has to throw the ball to someone, and I think it's going to be Robert Tonyan. So I like Robert Tonyan here versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, don't forget about Travis Kelce. This guy can absolutely destroy a game. He can put up 20-plus fantasy points, easily the top tight end on the slate. He's $6,500 DraftKings salary, projected at 16.1 fantasy points here tonight. I just worry that the Kansas City Chiefs get ahead in this game. They don't need to pass the ball as much, so I don't like the game script here for Travis Kelce. Plus, it's a bad matchup, but it's Travis Kelce. He's averaging 9 pass targets per game on the season. He got 7 and 14 pass targets in the last 2 weeks, so he gets a ton of volume. He's on the field for 89% of the snaps, so you can't ignore this guy. Probably make a lineup or two with him. So I like Travis Kelce here versus the New England Patriots.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.